Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there. Taking a look here at the visible satellite imagery, and you can see this smoke from the Canadian wildfires is really coming down across Pacific Northwest, putting a nice hue on the sunset last night. You probably saw that. And in all reality, it's not too bad here. During the daytime, it's much more difficult to detect versus once you get towards the afternoon and evening hours, especially with the sun setting, you can see it quite nicely out there. Some of the smoke trying to move down into the surface areas as well, so you might notice a little bit of that as we go. We'll check that out in some detail. We'll take a look at the extended forecast as always. How much will we warm up? How long will we stay warm here? And what kind of precipitation can we expect? We might start to introduce some thunderstorms here across the higher terrain as well. Looking at that near surface smoke here is as we go through the 4th of July evening here, not too bad, but there is some smoke working its way down towards the surface, and you'll probably see that in a sunset again tonight for the area. Now taking a look at the hourly wildfire potential, and you can see some of that potential exists for western Washington, Oregon. Careful with the fireworks out there. Things are quite dry across the region. Taking a look at the visitor center here, nice blue sky out there. Our snow patch is getting smaller, but definitely a nice day to be outside so far. Seabrook on the Washington coastline there, glorious day, and much cooler on the coastline versus the interior portions, which is usually the case. Here we go. Forecast high temperatures, July 4th. Check out the Willamette Valley. Really roasting today. Look at Salem, 98 degrees. And again, if you want to get up the coastline, you can really beat that heat. But Portland, you're looking at mid and upper 90s for some areas potentially. This is the hot temperatures continue across some Oregon. Look at Grants Pass, 102. Medford is at 102 for them. Look at Brookings, 62. Big contrast here between the coast and the interior. And look at some of the areas, the I-5 corridor, definitely warmer there than eastern Washington. This is thunderstorm chances for your 4th of July here across some of extreme northeast Washington, the Idaho Panhandle, and northwest Montana. This would be included up into BC and some of the Rocky Mountains up towards Alberta there as well. Nothing too crazy right now, but this is going to continue on for the next few days. We'll take a look at that in some more detail here in a moment. SeaTac, 82 yesterday, 75 is the high, 7 degrees above average there. And you can see by the time we get to the end of July, we are at 79 for the average. Definitely our warmest time of year here across Pacific Northwest. And a lot of you will probably remember the 103-degree day back there on July 29, 2009. It seemed like an impossible record back then to get 103. And also, I talked about this yesterday, precipitation. We've never hit 1 inch in a 24-hour period. That is one record I would love to break here sometime this month. Maybe we'll get lucky. Who knows? Cross your fingers. This is mean sea level pressure, showing that thermal trough here. You can see the ridge of high pressure over the Rocky Mountains, and it kind of leaves us in this thermal trough by default. We get this offshore flow here, and that's going to continue on in through tomorrow. By the time we go into Thursday afternoon, though, we're going to start to move that inland a little bit and start a bit more onshore flow and cool things down somewhat west of the Cascades. We'll take a look at that in some detail here in a moment as well. This is looking at 925 millibars, about 2,500 feet, and you can kind of see that offshore component going on this morning. And as I put that into motion, you kind of see that easterly flow across some of the Columbia Basin here over the next couple of days as well. Before we get to Thursday, then we start to turn things a little bit more onshore here, and you can kind of see a more typical pattern of some westerly winds coming through the gorge there and down the east slopes of the Cascades, for example. So we're going to bring some onshore flow towards the end of the week here coming up. This is just a closer look at the herd. This is 80-meter wind speeds. I just want to show you there is a little bit of wind going on this afternoon, evening, and tonight. So hopefully we can keep that fireworks smoke stirred up a bit here across the area, but you see not everywhere is windy here, so it might get a little bit stagnant at times, but definitely you can see the surge coming down the Strait of Juan de Fuca. That's going to be kind of nice for clearing out some of the smoke for those areas, but it's going to push it around a bit here too. You can see down the Strait of Georgia as well, some nice gusty winds here going through tonight. This is looking at 6-hour precipitation total. And as we go through this afternoon, you can see where the thunderstorms might be favored. Tomorrow afternoon, a little bit of a decrease in the amount of coverage. But as we go through Thursday and Friday, you can kind of see that mainly across British Columbia, some of the Rocky Mountains, including Idaho and Montana at times, and some of the North Washington Cascades as well could get involved in that activity. So we will be bringing some thunderstorm activity across some of the higher terrain. Hopefully this is not going to start any fires here as we go through this weekend. Here we go, Seattle, Tacoma, the GFS kind of showing this bump in temperatures as we go on in through mid-July here. Got to take this with a grain of salt, and I'll show you why here in a moment. This is Portland, the European shows probably something more realistic here. Shows a trough closer to the Pacific Northwest, but troughs this time of year aren't a guarantee for cooler than normal temperatures, and we'll look at that here in a moment in a little more detail, actually starting right now. Now, this is the GFS Ensemble, and I'll show you a little bit of why ensembles are not always king, because you could look at this forecast and see there is some general troughing around the area. Now, the one we're looking for here is the next trough rolling down here as we go through the July 9th, 10th period. And you can see this is going to be smoothed out and averaged quite a bit. So it's not giving you that much information. You're not gathering a great forecast from here. So it's something you want to look at the deterministic model sometime. If you want to peek out in the future, you want to look at the deterministic models sometimes just to kind of see what is possible versus just an ensemble average here. But usually, ensembles do have their place, but this is just one of the rare times where it might not be the best thing to look at for an extended forecast. And I'll show you why here now. So this is the GFS. Last night's run 06Z versus yesterday afternoon's. If you put this into motion, you can kind of see the general troughing kind of hanging around, the return of some thunderstorms for the higher terrain here across the region, and then you'll see the next trough start to develop here. And last night's run here keeps it weaker and further off over the Pacific Ocean, and you'll see yesterday afternoon's run keeps that trough. It's stronger and closer here. So this would be a big difference in temperatures, especially west of the Cascades here. As you can see, this big ridge of high pressure here extending more up into Oregon versus yesterday afternoon's run where it's more subdued and back down across some of the southwest here. Now, taking a look at the European, so let's see what it said yesterday afternoon as well. Again, there we go. Thunderstorm activity increases for the higher terrain. And you can see the same kind of trough here setting up, but it is stronger and a little bit closer here. So we kind of don't put much confidence into either model right now, but you can kind of see this trough hanging on, would continue onshore flow and keep us cool as a very strong ridge of high pressure there sets up across the desert southwest and would keep things quite warm. But there would be a sharp cutoff here between the very warmest air and the Pacific Northwest shown on the European as of yesterday. Now, looking at the daily 2-meter max temperature here, this is the national blend of models. You can see a nice warm day, especially across the Willamette Valley. Look at that, just baking. Really the warmest place across Pacific Northwest today. Tomorrow, let's look at it. So pretty much the same thing, very comparable to a lot of eastern Washington there. And then we start to cool down just a hair there as we go through Thursday and Friday. Get a little more of an onshore flow here, and eastern Washington remains fairly hot. You can see Seattle dropping back down. Willamette Valley, lower 80s here. Now, Saturday, Sunday, we stay above average here for the most part, but our confidence starts dropping rapidly as we get towards the weekend. Where is this trough going to set up? Is this ridge going to get further up into the Pacific Northwest and warm us up? Something we have to watch closely over the next few days. This is 6 to 10 day temperature probability outlook, and you can see the bullseye here on the Pacific Northwest all the way through July 13th. So yeah, you'll probably see that smoke flying around there. Hopefully the fireworks aren't too bad out there. Be careful. Don't light anything on fire. You guys probably saw my video yesterday here in Normandy Park. Somebody really lit up a huge hedge there outside of a home, and it created quite a bit of smoke. It was pretty amazing just how much smoke that actually created. So just going to be careful out there. Hopefully those winds stir thing up and we can clear out our atmosphere when everybody's done with the fireworks. And yeah, so I'll do my typical briefing again tomorrow, and we'll watch to see how this forecast evolves. Hope maybe we can even get that trough a little bit closer through the extended and bring some rare July precipitation here west of the Cascades. We'll check that out tomorrow. So anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos. Click like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys then.